Okay, looks like I'm recording. All right, seniors, or rising seniors, I want to do sort of an online workshop for you, and this is basically just an idea or a way for you to um, kind of develop ideas for what your project will be for your senior exhibition. So, calling the workshop Vision and Voice, and it's essentially just that: how to develop a plan for your senior project. So, before we get too far into anything, I want to just say you can look at previous courses or previous classes, senior projects. If you go to Moodle, there is a Moodle page that you are attached to called Studio Art. It has the glass blocks as sort of the banner image. So you can go there and you can look at previous exhibitions. You can look at more detailed examples of what the students have made, so on and so forth. For this little workshop, I'm going to talk briefly about project goals, basic expectations. Then we'll do a reflection. You can, I'll walk you through an evaluation of that reflection, and then I'll give you some homework for when you, or for the remainder of the summer. So generally, as far as the project goes, we want you to do what you want to do. We don't want you to do something that you don't know much about or that is confusing to you. We want you to do something you're comfortable with. This is sort of the pinnacle of your time in college, the sort of peak where you can use all of the things you've learned in all of your other classes. You can take it all and you can synthesize it into a project. I also write on here that it should make a positive impact. And basically, that it doesn't mean you have to make pretty paintings of streams and mountains and birds and flowers, but it means like if you're making something that's important to you, then there's some group of people who it is important to them as well, and that's really all I mean by make a positive impact. And then at some point, it's nice if you tell me what media you want to work in, whether that's painting or drawing, whether it's ceramic sculpture or carving sculpture, if you want to do photography, design, whatever that may be. Please let me know. More basic expectations. It is really hard to say like you have to make specifically these sorts of things. We want you to create a project that is unique to you, and so we can't really say you have to make 8 things or 6 things or 10 things. You can think of it kind of like when you took, say, a photography class. How many photography projects were there? There's an expectation that you will have basically the same number of photography projects for your senior exhibition. Same with any other class. And generally speaking, if your work is if your work is larger or more complex, then it makes sense that you would have fewer things in the show. If your work is smaller or the projects are generally simpler, we would expect you to have more things in the show. I'm not going to go through these individual numbers for each discipline because, again, it can vary a lot, but this is generally what we would expect. When you get to campus in the fall, we want you to start right away. So you should do as much work over the summer as you can. That means maybe buying supplies, coming up with a general idea of what you want to do, and then maybe having all the specific things you want to make kind of planned out. So when you get to campus, you can get started as early as possible. We know and we expect there to be some changes to some of your ideas, but the more you have prepared, the easier it is to move forward, even if you're making changes. Also, just want to point out that the Office of Undergraduate Research, at the time of this video, has a fund. They usually give students between $200 and $300. It's not guaranteed, but it can help supplement frames or art supplies or whatever. So this class can be expensive or it can be really expensive. $200 or $300 isn't probably going to cover everything you need. So you can also expect to spend your own money. Another common issue we have is sometimes people want to work in disciplines that they really don't have any knowledge or expertise in. So we would like you to work in a discipline that you have had at least one course's worth of experience. Sometimes there are situations where it might be something that's new to you, but you've done something very similar. So for example, if you want to do a video project, lens-based video project, and you've done a lot of photography, that makes sense. If you want to do an animation and you've done a lot of illustration, that works too. You might want to do something that we don't offer a course in. And if that is the case, we don't want to say no to you. We never want to say no to you, but we just want to make sure you have the skill set to do it. So for example, if you want to make quilts, maybe that can just be part of it. Or if you want to do, whatever, small metal objects, maybe that can be part of your project, but maybe not the whole thing. Talk to your professors, the closest one to the area you want to work in. And if you're not sure, just let me know, I'll help you. Another thing we see from time to time is students will want to make one project that's really just one idea, and they'll make it in multiple parts. So for example, this is a photography project where a phoenix is alive, goes away, and is reborn, the phoenix bird, that kind of legend. And this is really one artwork in 6 different parts, similar to like a comic strip or something like that. We want you to work in multiple parts because part of the problem is, or part of the problem to solve is creating cohesion among different things. It's really easy to create cohesion if it's all really just one thing anyway. I hope that makes sense. Another thing we hear a lot, and maybe more than anything else, is students will say they want to work in 2 different disciplines or 3 different disciplines. And this can work, but it can be real tricky. What usually happens is people will have sort of a primary media, and then they'll have a secondary media. So for example, in this installation, this student worked mostly on these designs, these posters, and then the sculptural objects, which are made out of cement. Those were sort of a supplement to the posters. So you can see there's like these little paper airplanes in the posters, and then these cement paper airplanes in the cement chair sitting out in the actually kind of blocking people from looking at the posters. Anyway, we hear a lot people want to do painting and ceramics or whatever, and what usually ends up happening there is they do ceramics projects, they just paint them instead of glazing them. So whatever. Ultimately, the idea has to come first, and the work has to be cohesive. So if you do it, we're not opposed to it, but these are the problems that we often see. Okay, we're going to do the reflection. And for the reflection, I'm going to basically ask you a question, and then you pause, respond to the question, and then you can hit play. So this can take as long or it can go as quick as you'd like. So get out your pencils and notebooks and get ready to write or type or whatever you want to do. Okay, question 1. What were your most meaningful art classes or art projects? So this can be within the discipline in which you want to work, or it can be outside of that discipline. If the meaningful class or the project was in studio or art history, that's fine. Were there any projects or lectures that provided like aha moments, or maybe just things that you found to be really fun or exciting? Or is there anything you wish you could do again, or that you had more time to explore? So go ahead, pause the video and write down what you would say are your most meaningful art classes or art projects. All right, next question. What were your most meaningful classes outside of art? So this is basically the same question, just not in the art department. So maybe you took a GER, or there was a course in your other major if you have one, or your minor area of study. And again, was there anything that was like an aha moment, or anything that you just thought was really fascinating that you want to explore a little bit more? Were there any classes or projects that made you think, I think I'd like to double major in this, or if I had time, I would double major in this. So go ahead and think about that, pause the video, think about that, and write down your most meaningful classes or projects outside of the art department. All right, next question. Go ahead and list some artists that you like. These can be visual artists or designers. They can also be musicians, writers, filmmakers. They can be dancers. I don't care. Any creative person that you think is cool or that you that brings you into their work, go ahead and make a note. If you can't think of their name, maybe just describe the work so you can maybe do a little dive and figure out what their name is. These don't have to be like the most new, up-to-date contemporary artists, but they also don't have to be like the really old, canonized artists. Those people are fine, but that doesn't have to be these people. It's fine to list people you like on Instagram or whatever, but that's not necessarily a vetted resource. So it's better if you know of artists who are or who sort of have what we might say a legitimate reputation. And of course, your professors will help you find people. But really, most important that you write down people who you like. Doesn't matter that much about the reputation, although that will come into play later. So go ahead, pause the video, and list the artists that you're drawn to. Okay, question 4. Who are some people you respect for their character and or actions? So this is kind of the same question, but instead of thinking about people who are artists, we're thinking about people who are non-artists. So this might be role models or people who you kind of look up to as heroes, or just people who you like, or you just consistently see them doing good things. I have people in my life who have inspired my work, who kind of fall into this category. I won't bore you with those stories. Instead, go ahead and pause the video and write down some people who you respect for their character or actions or whatever else. Okay, question 5. What are your interests outside of school? So this could be anything. You know it better than I do, obviously, but maybe you can think about what kind of movies you like, or what kind of books do you like? Do you lean toward fiction or nonfiction? Are there any topics or types of stories that you're drawn to? Maybe what kind of articles do you click on to read when you are browsing the internet or whatever? Are they politics? Are they related to sports, fashion, art? Could be anything, whatever. I guess another question might be, or similar, what kinds of meaningful social media accounts do you follow? So pause the video, take a moment, and write down your interests outside of the academic world. All right, question 6. What projects have you done that were important to you? This again is outside of the academic world. So this could be missions trips. It could be trips or vacations that you took with your family, or just various experiences. It could be a class project or a club project. It could be something you did with Cub Scouts or Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or whatever kind of scouts you were in, or whatever kinds of teams you were on, or whatever. Does not have to be related to art, to be clear. So take a second, or pause the video, take a second, and write down things that you've done that were important to you. Okay, next question. Number 7, what is important to you? What are your passions? So this can be really anything that you feel like everybody should be paying attention to, or focusing their attention on. Maybe you're a passionate vegan or vegetarian. Maybe you're passionate about social justice or the environment, human rights, politics, public health. Anything that you think is really important, anything that you think other people should also value as much as you do. Go ahead and list that. So pause the video and write that down. Okay, last question. This is a fun one. If you could go back to school and get another degree, what would you study? And so you can pretend there are no restrictions and there are no consequences. Hypothetically, maybe you get a job and you're making whatever, $1 million a year. And your boss said the first thing they tell you is that you get the job, but you need to go back and get another bachelor's degree. It can be in anything you want. Your GPA doesn't matter. What is it that you're going to pick in that situation? Go ahead and pause the video, maybe think through some of your life experiences and come up with an answer for that, and then hit play again. Okay, we're going to move on to the evaluation section, and this is really kind of just thinking about the answers that you wrote for the questions and then thinking about why you wrote those answers. So for questions 1 and 2, these were the questions, well, you can go look, but this is related to things you did in school that were meaningful, projects or classes, whether it was in the art department or outside the art department. What about those classes and projects that you listed made them meaningful? Why were they meaningful? Go ahead and pause the video and write that down. All right, next evaluative question. This is the one where I asked you about artists you like or people who you respect. So look at what you wrote there and then think about these people and maybe list what it is about them that you like. What is it about their artwork that you like? What is it about them that is respectable? Go ahead, think through that, write down some notes before you move on to the next one. Okay, question 5. This I asked you to write down, this is related to question 5, and it's where I asked you to write down your interests outside of school. So what were the common threads among the things that you kind of spend your time consuming, reading or watching or listening to? What are the common threads? Go ahead, pause the video, take a minute and write that down. Okay, the final evaluation question has to deal with 6 through 8. This is the one where I asked you basically what's important to you, what are your passions, what would you study if you could go back and study anything? And again, the question really is, what are the common threads among these things? Can you find any? Try your hardest, pick out a few things that you think kind of tie all this stuff together. All right. There we go. So I want to summarize kind of what we have just done. We have kind of articulated a combination of things, basically things that are important to us or things that we value, and then also a little bit like why we value them. And so I want to talk about what we're going to do in Art 401 in terms of vision and voice. Vision, this would be sort of the ultimate goal. What's your objective? What's your motivation? What do you want to express? What do you want your audience to feel? Do you want people to be called to action? Do you want them just to know that they're not alone? Do you want to provide some kind of unique product? This is sort of the concept or the content of your work. I think some seniors are like, well, you have to make something and there has to be some meaning behind it. This is the meaning part. We also might call this the critical theory, what makes your artwork special or unique to you. So for your vision, you can sort of think through all the answers to the questions. Think through the concepts, these ideas that are sort of obviously important to you. And so these are the things that you should be folding into your work. It just makes sense. So when you were a kid, you drew pictures of whatever you were interested in at the time. You're a little older and more mature now, so you make work that's a little bit older and more mature as well. And now you're also sort of responsible to your audience, which when you were a child, you weren't so much. So is your work going to be socially relevant? Are you raising awareness? Or do you just want to be sort of dramatic or poetic or romantic? That's your choice. And that would be what we would call the vision. The voice is really the style. What do you want your work to look like? This is not the discipline. So this isn't to say like, oh, my voice is painting or ceramics or design, but more specifically, it's loose and expressive, or it's tight and controlled, or it's colorful or muted or black and white. This would also sort of include the mood of the work. Is it serious? Is it funny? Is it dramatic? All of this is acceptable. What is yours going to do? And so for your voice, you should think about the way you enjoy making work, but also the types of work that you enjoy consuming or listening to, or whatever. But also you should sort of be aware that whatever you make will likely be part of your portfolio after you graduate. So whether you're just applying to jobs, or you want to go to graduate school or whatever, like what you make in Art 401 is likely going to be part of that portfolio. So if you love to make pots and you love looking at colorful pottery and you want to be a potter when you graduate, that's a sign. Maybe you should make colorful pottery in your senior project. If you love working digitally and you have a long history of liking movie posters and you want to be a designer when you grow up, maybe you should think about making movie posters with the Adobe Creative software. If you love to take pictures and you love black and white film photography and you want to get an MFA in photography, then maybe it makes sense for you to do black and white film photography for your senior project. It is really that simple. And at the same time, coming up with a big creative project is really very difficult, which is why we're doing this reflection now. So your homework, so your homework is to think about, what do you want your vision to be? And you can come up with a bunch of different ideas for what you want your vision to be, and you can focus it in later. You can think about your voice. What do you want your work to look like? What's the mood? And you can think about a bunch of different ways you could kind of approach your vision through your voice. And so what I want you to do is synthesize your vision or your ideas with your voice or your style. When you return in the fall, pretty quickly you will be asked to give a short project proposal, which you will receive feedback on, and then hopefully you'll get some solidification to your ideas. And then ideally start right away. Okay, so if you have any questions at all, please email me. I can't speak for every summer of my life, but I will do whatever I can to respond as quickly as I can, and I'm on your side. But I don't want to talk about what your vision and voice is until after you've done this reflection. So please don't email me. I guess if you're at this point in the video, you've done the reflection. So now you have permission to email me with questions. I'm happy to answer them. In fact, all of the faculty are happy to answer them. Studio, art history, we're all on your side. We all want you to succeed. Thank you very much. Let me know if you need anything.